Good morning, everyone. First of all, we want to thank Academia Journals Celaya for the invitation to participate in this Congress. The topic for today is Motivational Macro-Strategies used to teach English at CAMASC SDIF Shelther, Tapachula. The speakers are myself, Gloria Amelia GutuMoguel, Eric Iván Aguilar Salvador, José Antonio Aguilar Salvador, Angélica Patricia Córdoba Mesa, Antonia Jiménez Alba y Ana Rosa Núñez Serrano. The context of the study is the deep Tapachula, Chiapas, and the study took place in the years 2019-2020. The participants were 17 children, ages from 6 to 17, in the shelter for boys and for girls. The research questions are the following. What motivational macro strategies are most frequently used to motivate children when teaching English at CAMASC SDIF Shelther, Tapachula? How are these children at CAMASC Shelther motivated to learn English? Our main goal is to identify the 10 macro strategies most used and explain the rationale behind for improving motivation. The justification and methodology. Well, first of all, we found out that children at this shelter are not motivated to learn. So we want to find ways to motivate them and help them learn different topics. Teachers do not know about the existence of motivational macro strategies. Therefore, it is important to raise awareness on them that there are many motivational strategies available to be used. Children are vulnerable and do not have academic activities. They have a lot of free time. The instruments used were Google Forms for teachers and students. The methodology used was descriptive and interpretative, and a little bit we count the results using Google Forms. There are three main concepts to cover. The first one is motivation. Motivation is a key factor for explaining the success or failure of any difficult activity. It is well known that the success in a task is achieved when someone is motivated. It is easy in second language learning to state that a learner will be successful with the right motivation. Alisa Det, 2016. Motivational strategies are techniques that promote the individual's goal-related behavior and refer to those motivational influences that are consciously exerted to achieve some systematic and enduring positive effect. In addition to that, motivational strategies are tactics, techniques, or approaches to encourage learners or students to participate in the teaching and learning process. Rasmussen, K. 2008. The results in this ranking of the 10 most used macro strategies were the following. Number 1 was proper teacher behavior. This is a very important macro strategy used because teachers should behave properly within the lesson. The second one is recognize a student's effort. As we know, this recognition will definitely motivate students to keep learning. It will encourage them to do their best. Number 3 is to present tasks properly. In this case, the importance comes in preparation, in previous planning, where the task should be adequate to the students' wants, needs, and age. Number 4 is to promote learners' self-confidence. As we know, it is important to develop self-confidence in students. Number 5 is creating a pleasant classroom climate. And this is very important, again, especially in face-to-face classes and in virtual environments. Number 6, make the learning task stimulating. Number 7, to promote group cohesiveness and group norms. As we know, it is important to establish the norms from the very beginning. Number 8 is to increase learners' goal-orientedness. We have to help our students know what is their objective, where should they get, and how should they achieve that. Number 9 is to familiarize learners with L2 related values. In this case, we're talking about social values, intercultural values, respect for others, among the ones that we can practice. And number 10, promote learners' autonomy. How are children motivated to learn English at CAMASC SDIF Shelther? Well, we found out that songs are catchy for students and the rhythm helps them memorize words and phrases. Also, it is important to use songs because they like it. Adults and children and teenagers like it. That also helps them learn vocabulary, pronunciation, and practice them. I mean, they practice and remember. We also found out that there should be a combination of factors and strategies. There should be a combination of factors of strategies that teachers should consider when teaching, when planning their activities. Sometimes they should use songs, images, games, or kinesthetic activities. And for that, it is important to consider the students' needs and likes. Another thing we found is that intrinsic motivation leads to some beneficial factors. For example, it helps them develop curiosity. B, the feeling of belonging to a group. C, students develop interest awareness. They also develop values, self-confidence, and it helps them achieve goals. They also develop empathy on the children, and that will help them have this feeling of belonging to the society. Other things we found was that extrinsic motivation is recommended for toddlers and young children. Sometimes rewards, candies and prizes, or points work fine, but we should be aware that it is important that little by little we have to move from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation to help students develop this self-awareness of their own learning. The proposal is the following. Teachers should adopt a role of facilitator to encourage peer teaching and group presentation, to teach self-motivating strategies, and to allow students to assess themselves. It is important that teachers should consider the use of motivational strategies as part of their pedagogical practice, to be aware of which ones are they and which ones should they use for that specific practice. Again, it is important to consider to develop abilities such as the cognitive speaking, the affective or social-emotional, develop the fine and the gross or motor skills that will help students become successful adults and learners. It is important to remember this well-known Chinese saying, if you give a man a fish, he will have a single meal. But if you teach a man to fish, he will eat his whole life. So this implies that we as teachers should Remember to help students develop autonomous, be responsible, and be critical. In the light of the above, it is important to implement the 48 motivational strategies. By little, try them out. Know what they are and choose them accordingly to your lesson. It is important to remember that a good language teacher motivator is not the one that reaches the highest motivation in students only in one class. On the contrary, it is the one who reflects, selects, varies, and is willing to take risks to keep their students motivated through motivating activities and adequate tools according to their students' ages and needs. These are the references. Thank you very much.